Welcome to my studio. Are you ready for some exclusive behind the scenes footage on what I do to make everything run smoothly in this studio? And what we'll cover is how I go through and maintain these, how I created some of these, and what are some of the inspirations behind this aquarium aesthetics that I've created in the studio. And we'll go through and break down how I set up and what is in every single tank today. By the way, if you watch all the way through at the end, I'm going to show you a hidden tank right up here that I've never shown before. It is a paludarium and it's never been seen before. But enough about that. Let's go through and break down the first tank and show you, we're not breaking it down, but step by step on what I did to set up the first aquarium in this studio. All right, so first one up is one of the most lovely tanks that I truly enjoy because it's the lowest maintenance tank that I have. One of the lowest. I have a couple, but this one was set up with the 45T, I believe is the tank. See how it matches the height? I changed that one out for a tall tank that I had before. Let's break this down in terms of what's in it from hardscape tank and filtration. Then we'll go to the actual inhabitants and things that are in it from plants. So first and foremost, it is the 45T and I think it's a T. Yeah, I'm almost positive. You'll see it in the build video. The lighting I have is the Trujillo's lighting. The light setting I have it on is Booses because there's mainly epiphytes and Booses in this tank. The filtration that I have going on in this aquarium is the Fluval 107 that we have right here. This is running on it. Also has lily pipes right here. The substrate is the Pacifica from UNS. The hardscape is lava stone. So I really went with the inert type of hardscape for this one since it is a Caridina line and I do want to breed these shrimp out as well. So they are the crystal red shrimp. I also have Pinocchio shrimp in here. I do have one fish and it is my scarlet barb that I went back to the shop and donated back to them after I was breaking down the tank that I was in originally, but then I picked it back up because they put it in with pea puffers and it was starting to get nipped. So I was like, can't have it there. I felt really bad. So I took it back and now it's here in this tank with my shrimp. There may be some issues later on, we'll find out, because it is it eats protein, so it's a carnivore type of fish. It is nano, but it may have some issues eating some shrimplets in the future. We'll see. If it does become an issue, I may put it in my big community tank here, which is only 20 gallons. Nothing's big and nothing's over 20 gallons in this. This is all nano set up in the studio. But anyways, I love my scarlet barb. I just fed it some bloodworms and you'll see it starting to float around in some of the macro shots, which you'll see through a lot of this. You'll have the front view and then macro shots as I'm explaining this aquarium. But then we also have some foreground plants, cryptprevarias. We also have some larger growing plants that are taking time to up in root into the substrate. I have floating plants in here. I have water lettuce. I also have some salvania. Do not use duckweed. But that's all that's in this tank. So it's pretty simplistic in its holistic view. The idea and inspiration behind this was a cave-like scenario or volcanic area. I went to Hawaii recently, about a couple years ago. I guess it's not really recent, but a couple years ago. And I really loved the volcanic areas. I didn't go with the Borisand on this one, which you'll see in my other tank with lava stone, which I don't regret because I really love the Pacifica and how it makes it pop. I did use control sand as its base. Then I did use some of 2-Hour Aquarius in terms of nutrients for the substrate to cap it all down with the Pacifica. And that's what we have in this aquarium. Everything's flourishing, no issues so far in this aquarium. I do have some Neo Caridina in this tank as well because I just wanted some red pop, some dense red shrimp. And that's what I have in here. These are the Bloody Mary shrimp in this tank. I do have an aeration stone, so let me add that in too. I added an aeration stone specifically into this aquarium. And most of mine, I would say about 90% of my tanks have air stones in them. That allows for surface agitation, so protein doesn't build up and I don't need a surface skimmer. I've had issues with surface skimmers and canister filters in the past. If you have it on the intake, they'll get sucked up, the shrimp will and the shrimplets, so I don't have them in any of my tanks. I do have one surface skimmer, and that is an outlet for your outlet part of the tank. This just didn't fit on here, right there, because of how far out it was going. I didn't like the aesthetic of it. So I don't have it in this tank, but I did have aeration, and that's what you'll see in the back is aeration, which again creates surface agitation, allows for more oxygen, which is great for shrimps as well. And it does create some type of CO2 within the aquarium, but it's not a full CO2 injected aquarium. And it also helps with O2 intake, just oxygen intake for your plants at night too. So perfect. I love aeration in most of my aquariums for that surface agitation. It took me a while to find an air pump that actually worked, but enough about that. I don't want to get too deep into that. That's this aquarium. And if you do have any questions, I do want your opinion as you're watching this. Which one is your favorite? This is a low maintenance, aesthetically pleasing aquarium that kind of looks like a volcanic cave area. And that was my thought process behind it, specifically around the Caridina line. Now the water parameters are set up for the Caridina shrimp as well. My TDS on this tank currently is at 120. My pH is currently sitting at right around 6.7. So I did test all of my tanks to give you all the insight as we're going through. And what I do for this is RDI. That's in all of my tanks now is just straight RDI. It's a lot easier to project fluctuations, I guess, instead of out of the tap. And I remineralize with salty shrimp, and it's the Caridina line for that. That just has the GH. But that is what's in this aquarium. Hopefully you loved the way this looked as well. But enough about this tank and what's in it. Let's move on to our second tank here. Now this is our second tank, and you've seen this in a lot of recent videos. This tank has been set up for right around, it was last April in 2024 is when I think I scaped it, or March. This one was scaped about a couple of months ago. And you'll see it. Whenever I upload to the scape videos is when I usually scape them. The other one's been taking a while, because if you didn't know, I had a remodel in this house. My wife just had surgery, so I've been MIA for a little bit trying to do too many things. But this tank was set up right around last March, and it's been running very smoothly. There's not a lot of over maintenance unless I let it run, which you saw in my last video. I let it run for about a month, and it was completely fine. But what we have in this tank is the Borisand. This is my 20-gallon tank. It's my second largest tank in here. I do have still lily pipes in the back, and I do have aeration. So you'll see aeration right around this area as well. And as you're seeing clips of the up close aeration into it. There is CO2 running in on this tank. This is a high maintenance tank for trimming because I have hyper growth, and I do add an all-in-one fertilizer into this as well. In all of my tanks, I run all-in-one fertilizers, and it just depends on what tank. So this tank gets a fertilization every other day. Basically, it gets 2 pumps of fertilization into there from the APT2 from 2 Hour Aquarius. The substrate again is the Borisand. I have Cryptprevarias, I have alternative Reneki, I have moss, I have Anubises, I have this, forget what the name is that's growing along the wood as well. Everything that's in here from an inhabitant perspective is going to be my clown killifish. I also have some celestial pearl danios. I also have a vampire shrimp. I have a hillstream loach in here. And as you all know, I love my rabbit snails, but this is the only tank that has them in here. This is specifically set up for Neo Caridina water parameters, so it does have KH and a GH. The TDS is sitting right around 200 in this aquarium, and the pH is sitting at 7.4. And you may see some pops of crystal reds in here. They do not breed when there is KH. They do live, they just don't flourish So I did add a couple into here just to see how they would maintain in here. And they're doing really well, no die-offs. It's just the issue of them not breeding. So that's why I set up this tank over here. But that's what's in this aquarium. There is a heater in this tank, so I keep this at about 71 is the temp set. 70 is the temp set, and that's a Hager heater as well. The lighting that we have on here is the Churros WRGB2, and we do have an automatic feeder for all of my inhabitants in here. But let's go through and enjoy this beautiful tank together as we watch it. Alrighty, so the thought behind this tank was to have a main focal point of wood, some space on each side for inhabitants to swim around and school around. The wood is going out. We have some plants finally starting to grow out. We do have some floating plants in here, and as you can see, this is full transparency behind the scenes. I haven't maintained any of these tanks just to show you what they look like on a daily basis. And I already have some Rotala Super Reds floating from my lovely rabbit snails that just love to uproot because they eat the stems, the leaves on them. But that's this aquarium. Let me know your thoughts on this build and if you have any questions about this specific build. But next up is Wolfy's tank right here, and this is what we're going to talk about. I won't be able to get too low because it's low, but you'll be seeing a close-up. Now this tank down here is specifically meant for one of my lovely cats that comes in here and watches my aquariums with me and enjoys all of them. So this tank was specifically set up for him. And now what's in here is just Thai crabs. I really love the Thai crab line. Well, there's not a line, there's just Thai crabs. Thai crabs aren't hard to keep. I found them very easy. It's the same type of water parameters as my Gallon Caridina tank right up here at the top, but they do live down here in a smaller tank. This is, I think, around 3 gallon. It's 3.2 gallon tank. Serious stone in here to help buffer up that, it's increasing the KH in this aquarium. So it's creating that higher pH for my Thai crabs. I do have some snails in here because snails do require a lot of calcium. So this is perfect for them. They are the trapdoor snails. Yes, Japanese trapdoor snails. I do have one Amano shrimp. I plan on getting some more shrimp in here. This is my tank that I'll keep for my scarlet barb over here. If it doesn't work out in there, she'll go, he'll go, whichever it is, in this aquarium down here below to live in with my Thai crabs. Now, Thai crabs don't really require supplemental feeding because they do filter feed, kind of like vampire shrimp. They have tiny hairs, and you'll start seeing a clip of them. They come out mainly at night, so unfortunately you won't see a daytime clip. But they go through and there's little hairs in their claws they feed. I did supplemental feed them sometimes from a calcium protein perspective just to see if they'll take to it, because they traditionally just filter feed. And one actually truly enjoyed it. I did it mainly not for them, but mainly for the Japanese trapdoor to get them some more calcium and protein in the Amano shrimp. So it was perfect for them. They actually came out and started eating some of that as well. But that's what this tank is set up with. You have the same thing, Pacifica sand. You had the control sand in the back with some carpeting plants as well. The filtration on this one is a hang-on back filter. There is aeration in this aquarium, so they do not like hyper water flow. I do have an air stone again to add that oxygen into the tank and surface agitation. There are floating plants because Thai crabs love to climb on roots and hide within the plant matter itself. So that's what is in this aquarium. The lighting is a Hager light, so it's super cheap light. This would be a cost-effective tank, nano tank for any of your scapes. But let me know your thoughts. Let's go through and enjoy this aquarium. Alrighty, one thing to note too, I do have some cholla cactus. It's not live cactus, but it's the skeleton of them that you can pick up at the store. Thai crabs love to hide out, not just in nooks and crannies within the Sirius stone, but also the cholla cactus skeleton as well. But that's this tank. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. Next up, we're going to go through our other one right here, which is our 20-gallon tank. Alrighty, so this is a 20-gallon long. Alright, so the thought process behind this aquarium was to create a bog water area without the tannins, essentially. I wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing because it's a show tank, and I wanted plants growing out of it. So you have a peace lily growing out of it at the top. You have this waviness within the actual wood, and that wood had 3 prongs. So when I saw the wood and I loved the piece, I wanted to scape around those 3 prongs and have 3 separate islands for things to run off of. And again, you have one here, here, and here. Now this is a high-tech, high maintenance tank for sure. If you have the time, definitely use everything that I did in this aquarium. But if you do not have the time, I would probably tone down on the CO2 and the lighting because it is a lot of maintenance for this build out. But basically what we have in here is our Bora sand. We have then this is the 90L tank, so it is a 20-gallon aquarium. Our lighting for this is the WRGB2 as well. We have an automatic fish feeder. We have our lily pipes with a surface skimmer outtake, not intake, so I don't have to worry about the shrimp. The main shrimp and idea behind this, well, not the idea, but the main reason I wanted this large of an aquarium was to get some orange eye shrimp. So there are orange eyes shrimp in here, the King Kong line, and they're black and red devils. And I don't know what they really give the black as a nickname, but they are amazing to watch. They just are afraid of the light. Everyone says that they're blind, but I don't think they are, because whenever the light comes on, they think they're blind because the colorization in their eyes, whenever the light comes on, they're not out. So I don't know if it's like a feeling on their shell or something, I don't know. But anyways, I think it's because they're not blind. Whenever they have any light refracting into their eyes, they hide. Now there are fish in here, so clown killies are some of my favorite nano fish because they surface skim at the top. And then I have chili rasboras in here too. Chili rasboras are the best nano fish for shrimp. They do not eat. I haven't witnessed them eating shrimplets at all. They love to school in here, so we have 2 different lines in here. We have the pygmy rasboras, or the strawberry rasboras, I think they call them. And then we just have the traditional chili rasboras that have a line through them. So the pygmy ones have like a circle dot. The other ones have a line through them. I do have an algae inhibitor that floats out, and everyone's like, you have a fog machine in there. Nope, algae inhibitor that has worked wonders for starting up the tank, and I just have left it running ever since. And the plants in here are all from Boost Plants as well. We have a wide range of plants in here. We have the alternative Renicky, which I love in my aquariums because they really pop with the deep red. We have Crypt Prevarias in here. We have a ton of Anubises. We have some different types of mosses that we have in here as well. A bunch of different types of stems in this aquarium too. But let's go through and just enjoy this aquarium together. The other thing to note is I do have a mono shrimp, and I also have Pinocchio shrimp in here. There are neurite snails that are flourishing in here, and I do have one pleco, which I forgot to mention in my other 20. I have a pleco too. Basically, the pleco eats all of the Gertitis, all of the algae that builds up on the wood. It is a albino pleco. It's super small right now. I have a friend here locally that takes them when they get too large for my 20-gallon tanks. He is a breeder, and he'll give me a new, smaller juvenile pleco. So we just trade them out. I grow them up, and then I have to sadly depart with them and get a new one to grow up in my larger 220-gallon tanks. Again, one plug on each tank does the job. But that's exactly what's in this aquarium. I haven't maintained it. You'll see a floating Anubis because I removed some of the Anubises in here about 2 weeks ago because I was fighting staghorn on them and just replanted some new ones, and they're just floating because they haven't rooted in yet. But that's what's in this aquarium. Hopefully you enjoyed this. This is the Borisand, if I didn't already mention that. And if you haven't seen the build video, make sure you check out the build video of this one as well. But let's move on to my other tank, which I don't know if I'm posting this video first or not, but I've already edited. I know you've all been asking for a new build video, my other build video for Caridina line. But if not, you get a sneak full peek, not of the full build, but of what that aquarium looks like today. All right, so as we move down the line, fix that camera as I had to move over more. As we move down the line, so you've seen the Valcano tank, you've seen my 20-gallon one that I set up almost a year ago, my new long one as well. Here's a long 6-gallon that I was going to put down where the Thai crabs are, but I left it up right here because it fits aesthetically in here. This tank is a 6-gallon tank. When I filled it up, it was like 5 gallons or something around there. Now, the theory behind this one was to get my blue bolts out of my Aquascape that I did for them and into something that had a non-buffering hardscape. So they were breeding, but the shrimplets weren't surviving as much because we were having initiation of KH and buffering coming from the serious, no, it was elephant stone. That's a fault on me for not really realizing that as I was scaping it with a ton of elephant stone. So you learn, and if you don't learn from your lessons, you should, but anyways, I did, and that's what this kind of came to fruition with. So there's Borisand. We have this lovely continuation of my ghostwood, which kind of plays into the fact that there's ghostwood here, and right next to it a small piece of ghostwood, just different aesthetics from hardscape. The hardscape in here is my lava stone. There's not as much plant, so the reason why I've been waiting so long, it's still not where I want it to be from an aesthetic. I don't like it right now, but I wanted to give you all the build video just because there's not a lot of stem plants and the planting of it is just taking a lot longer to grow out. So stem plants really help that initiation of an aquarium when you have a lot of epiphytes and not a huge dense area of stem plants. The cycle time, running through the legwork of it is just a lot longer. And I'm realizing that now on this tank. It's not where I want it to be, but I want to give you all content and show you where I'm at. But anyways, this is the lighting on this is a twin star light, and it actually, thinking about that now, it may be the lighting. I'm not getting enough because my other one was an epiphyte and it was fine. I think these twin star lights just aren't the best, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep working it. I want to learn from this one as much as possible with this not as expensive light from Twin Star and see what I can do from making it more flourish. But you may think it's good. I don't like it right now. But enough about that and me criticizing my own work. What I have in here is a Caridina line of my blue bolts. So there are blue bolts in here. I think you just saw them. I have Pinocchio shrimp because I love Pinocchio shrimp. Hang on back filter is the best for these nano scapes. I don't want to have a full canister filter like I do my other ones. So for this long, not in 10 gallon, because the other one was a 10 gallon, like you saw the Valcano Scape. That's what I have in this tank. Now, the lovely part about this is there's floating plants, aeration, and my blue bolts are breeding. So I already have shrimplets after I moved them in here, and they're surviving. So I'm super happy with how that turned out, just not the plants. So I'm a plant guy, as you can tell up here, tons of plants. It's just not where I want it to be. So you live and learn. We'll work through this together and we'll show you an update. If you didn't see the build video, we're going to keep updating this and get it right in tuned on what I like. But that's this aquarium. Let's go through and enjoy the inhabitants. And yes, there's some floating boosters because I don't think it was the trapdoor snail, but it was the neurite snail that was cleaning the wood and it bumped them all up because I didn't glue them down. I try not to glue as much as possible when I don't need to. So I just need to re-stick them in there. But I'm going to give you, again, full transparency on some of the behind the scenes here on where everything's at. So I just have to tuck them in right in this area. But let's enjoy this aquarium and where it's at now. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this aquarium. If you have any questions about it, feel free to comment below. But let's move on. We have 3 left. I know it may not, it may seem like a lot, but they're not. They're all nanoscapes. So let's go through to my next one. You won't see me in the foreground of this one because it's on a desk. It's right up here, and I have bloodworms ready to feed. So if you're wondering why I have a solo cup, it's right up here. So I need to just go through and film it from the foreground view. But basically I'll explain it here. What this tank is all about, I'll explain it here. What this tank is all about is, again, Caridina line. These ones are my galaxies. So I have red galaxies and black galaxies in this aquarium. This has been set up right after I did my larger 20 gallon back in March. So I think I did this one in June or July. You can see the full build video as well. What I have currently in this tank is the Mojave or something, Mojave, I think it is, substrate. This is a 5 gallon tank. There is a heater currently in this aquarium. Main reason for that is the temp in my room is getting lower for my Caridina shrimp. So anything in my smaller nano tanks will start getting a heater as the temps start to dip to freezing, just in case it gets colder in this studio. But I have my substrate here. There is a hang on back filter that works wonders in this tank, and there's also the spiderwood. I have all of my plants in here are local, except for my Cryptoprivaria was not local. So we have my tiger lotus. We have some additional lotuses in the back. That's not the red tiger lotuses. And then the lighting I have on this is the Trajeros C2 lighting. There is an automatic fish feeder in here because there are chili rasboras in here. I have 7 in this tank. I am also fighting a bladder snail issue in this tank, so I just got some assassin snails and let them go to work on this tank. There are 2 in this one. I have Pinocchio shrimp. I have an Anubis growing out of this tank as well. But let's enjoy this tank and the shrimps in this one together. All right, now we have our one tank that we haven't touched in forever. This is the Paludarium that I set up a way long ago, and if you haven't seen that build video, feel free to check it up here. This is on a floating shelf as well, and this one hasn't had any maintenance since I've set it up. It's overgrown. There's some dead plants in here as well in the not in the foreground, but in the terrarium side. Well, you know, the surface side, the non-immersed side. Submersed, yeah. There are lovely shrimp in here as well. They're the orange line. There is a neurite snail in here, but that's all. This just sits up on my shelf and is pretty low maintenance. All I have to do is just do water top offs. You've all seen this build. I'm probably going to break this down here shortly in a couple of months probably and redo it with something different. It's not an eyesore. It's just time to get you all some new content and for me to shape up my skills for the Paludarium game. But that's what this tank is and how it's standing currently. All right, so you made it to the end. All right, so you made it to the end. One last tank right up here. What is the theory of this one and why is it so hidden? This is my first Paludarium that I've ever set up in the studio, and it's just doing so well I never touch it. It's just growing out of the actual tank. There's some leaves growing out of it right up here. And all I do is feed. What's in it? There is a rainbow crab in there. And you won't see me break it down today. You'll just see some type of close-up of it and what it looks like. And it's just overgrown. It's a forest in there. My rainbow crab loves it. He never gets scared because I'm never looking at it. I just go in, check if he's alive, throw some crickets in there, and let him go to town. There are some shrimp in the water area in here. They're just all of my cull shrimp. I just put them in there. He doesn't eat them, he doesn't touch them, but that's where all of my cull shrimp go. If they don't go to the store, they go into this tank to maintain that ecosystem in there as well. There is a heater pad on the back. I do keep this tank from the heater pad itself. It's just a terrarium pad that I got at PetSmart. Yeah, PetSmart. And it stays about 76 degrees. There is a fogger in there from UNS. I just don't run it. There's too much humidity already in this room, so I try to keep the humidity low. This is a 5-gallon tank, and there's probably about a gallon of water only in this for the submerged side. The immersed side has a ton of overgrown plants, and this is my hidden scape that never gets seen by anyone, but you are all the first time to see this one. And next time, I'll go through and actually break this down and do a cleaning of it so you can see the crab as well and kind of what it looks like from an inside area. It's just flourishing. It's doing so well. I never have to worry about it. I do have to do water top offs for this aquarium, but that's the hidden gem of this scaped area, well, the studio. So hopefully you enjoyed that little hidden gem that you may have never seen before that I never show off, but that's what's in there and the hidden aquarium on my shelf as well. All right, I forgot to add, there is a Hager light. It's a cheaper light. It was around $35. That's on that aquarium. It's not a show tank, not growing any reds, so I wanted to make sure that I had some lighting, of course, because it's growing some plants. But anyways, hopefully you enjoy this exclusive behind the scenes where I didn't do any maintenance on any of these tanks. When you looked at this, or you looked as you were watching, this was all pre-prepared tanks where I didn't do any maintenance and then film. This is what they look like on a daily basis, as you saw them in this exclusive behind the scenes filming of my studio. Hopefully you took some inspiration for your next build that you're going to be doing. If you have any questions, please comment. I would also really love to know which one is your favorite tank in the studio. And if you have any questions, again, I know I already said it, but comment below. And until next time, I'll see you all on the next video.